In this presentation, I want to discuss the concept of qualifying relatives in the context of I-601 and I-601A waivers. More specifically, I want to talk about taking a person's first approach to showing hardship in waiver cases. Far too often, individuals rely on a factors approach. Factors focus on issues: economic hardship, educational hardship, medical hardship. And whereas that's not necessarily bad, far too many people rely on that approach in a robotic way. And they tend to miss a lot of issues that could strengthen the hardship that they show to government and bring them a step closer to victory. So let's step back for a moment. What is hardship? Hardship is A, the degree of suffering; B, that a specified family member, known as a qualifying relative, C, will experience; D, if the immigrant is not allowed to remain with them in the United States. The government, in particular, focuses on the degree of suffering, and a person's first approach improves the ability to show that the requisite degree of hardship is met. One more preliminary item before we dive deeper. The examples in this video will focus on an I-601A waiver situation. Why? Because in terms of qualifying relatives, I-601A waivers are more difficult than I-601 waivers. Why? Because children are excluded as qualifying relatives in an I-601A waiver situation. I will discuss this point in more depth later. However, the points that are raised in this video apply equally to an I-601 or an I-601A waiver situation. As I noted, I will explain the differences as we move deeper into the video. So let's begin our analysis with a family tree. Here is what an I-601A waiver family tree looks like. You'll notice that only 3 individuals potentially count as qualifying relatives: the spouse of the immigrant, the father of the immigrant, the mother of the immigrant. And they only count if they are either a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. However, a person's relevant family tree is often broader. And that is why a person's first approach tends to bring out more issues. Let's explore a hypothetical family. Let's meet Harry and his family. Harry is an undocumented immigrant. He entered the United States in 2004 and has never left the country. He has no convictions or arrests. Wilma is his wife. At the time he met Wilma, she was a lawful permanent resident. The year was 2015, and they started dating about a year later. Wilma became a U.S. citizen in 2021. They were married in 2022. Harry has 3 minor children. Charlie was born in 2017. Charlotte was born in 2020. He has a third child, Christopher, who was born outside the United States in 2012. Christopher's mother is Darlene, Harry's first wife. Harry and Darlene were divorced in 2014. She was a lawful permanent resident at the time of Christopher's birth. At the end of the divorce hearings, the court gave legal and physical custody of Christopher to Harry. Both of Wilma's parents, Maria and Francisco, are U.S. citizens and still living. Wilma has one sister, Shirley, who is also a United States citizen. Henrietta is Harry's mother. She lives 2 blocks away from Harry and does not work. Here is how the family tree for Harry and his family looks. Now, why did I give you a list of individuals who are not qualifying relatives? Because in order to fully understand hardship, we need to look closely at the family tree. As I often explain, the difference between winning hardship and losing hardship is the difference between extreme hardship and ordinary hardship. And sometimes that gap is determined by the hardships, by the circumstances being experienced by non qualifying relatives. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck are you talking about, Carlos? Well, let's go through the different members in this family tree so I can better explain to you how to expand the reach of potential hardships using a person's first approach. So, is Wilma a qualifying relative? Clearly, she's a United States citizen and she's the spouse of Harry. And in most I-601A waiver cases, the spouse of the immigrant is going to be the primary qualifying relative around whom the hardships have to be built around. We have to show that their codependency is strong and that without Harry, she's going to be very strongly affected in a negative way. Well, what about the children? Charlie and Charlotte, they're the biological children of Harry and Wilma. They were born in the United States. Well, unfortunately, in an I-601A waiver situation, they don't count as qualifying relatives. In an I-601 waiver case, they would count as a qualifying relative. What about Christopher? Christopher was born outside the United States. He's clearly not a qualifying relative, and he's not a lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen. Well, not so fast. We need to look a little deeper at the family tree. We don't know if he is in legal status or not. Consider this: Harry and Wilma started living together in 2016 or 2017. At that time, Harry already had full custody of his child Christopher. And if they merged their families, then Wilma became a stepmother. She took on the role of the step parent by virtue of the relationships. Perhaps she filed at some point in time for Christopher to become a permanent resident. We don't know that, but we need to explore that issue. In other words, we need to know Christopher's immigration status. But does it really matter? Because in an I-601A waiver situation, neither Christopher or the two biological children of Harry and Wilma, Charlie and Charlotte, count as qualifying relatives. They only count under an I-601 waiver. Sounds unfair, doesn't it? Well, it was a political trade off during the Obama administration years. But does that mean that the children's hardships that they would suffer upon losing Harry doesn't count in an I-601A waiver application? Well, I'm glad you asked because the answer is no, no, and no. Even if they only are the children in a 601A waiver, not qualifying relatives, their hardships can still count under a person's first approach. As we bring the hardship in through the back door, we bring it to Wilma. And as this graph shows, in that way, we can get their hardships to count to the extent that they adversely affect Wilma. Well, now we've finally reached a point where we can dive into non qualifying relative hardships, indirect hardships, indirect hardships that can make the difference in proving extreme hardship will occur to Wilma. As this graph shows with the children, that if the hardship goes to the children, it can still circle around through the back door and affect Wilma. But it's not just the children. For instance, why did I bring up Maria and Francisco? They're U.S. citizen parents of Wilma. They're not Harry's parents. They're not qualifying relatives. There's no connection to him other than that they're the grandparents of his two biological children that Wilma gave birth to. But here is where you really need to go deeper. Move away from a robotic formula and look closely at the family tree. Let's say Maria has a life threatening illness and she needs daily care and she has a lot of medications and prescriptions she has to take and she has to go to a lot of doctor's appointments. And most of the time, it's Harry who takes her to these appointments. It's Harry who takes care of her because perhaps Wilma has to work a lot of hours outside the house, or perhaps her commute to work and back is very far, or perhaps she has to focus her energies on the children. And without Harry, who's going to fill that gap? Harry every day takes care of Maria. And perhaps Wilma's father also has some kind of illnesses. Well, their hardships don't count. The leaving, the removal of Harry from their lives doesn't count. The hardship term. However, the hardships that they will suffer because of that occurring and the impact it will have on Wilma, who's very close to her parents, and they live with them or close to them, will have an impact on Wilma. So, will that increase the hardship that Wilma shows the government? If so, why can't they be explored in an I-601A waiver application? And the same goes for Shirley. Perhaps she's the person in Wilma's family that has a major disease, a major medical problem, and she lives in a 24-hour care facility. And she has children. She has three minor children. She's divorced. So she has custody. But Wilma stepped into her shoes. Wilma's the guardian. And they children live with Wilma and Harry. So without Harry, again, playing a major role, how will that affect the extended family? Maybe Shirley lives with them and she too has a need for a lot of medications or a lot of medical care. She suffers psychologically, mentally, physically, and Harry plays a major role in helping her to keep going in her life. To remove him from that situation is going to increase the burden on Wilma. So, indirectly, will that situation, will those circumstances count as an indirect hardship to Wilma? Absolutely. How about Henrietta, Harry's mother? There's no indication in the facts given that she's a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, but we need to get to the bottom of that. She might well be. And if she is, well, then she also counts as a direct qualifying relative of Harry. But let's assume she's not. Well, still, she lives close to them and only 2 blocks away. And maybe she's the one that plays a major role in raising Harry and Wilma's children, and maybe Shirley's children. Helps get them ready for school, cooks breakfast for them, is there when they get home. So she has a big role in the family. And to lose her, because let's say she says, if Harry gets deported, I'm going with him, because Harry and his mother are very close, and she has perhaps some illnesses, and he helps take care of her. That would have a big impact on Wilma and her family. Absolutely, those types of circumstances are going to have an impact in an I-601A waiver case. Making them count requires concrete evidence, strong evidence, and strong declarations showing what the impact is to Wilma because of the closeness to Harry. So it's not the direct impact in these situations, it's the indirect impact. It's the indirect suffering imposed upon Wilma by non-qualifying relatives. And so when you're looking at I-601A waivers, and in I-601A cases as well, by focusing solely on the typical factors in a robotic way, you're likely to miss some of these situations and some of these circumstances that can make the difference between winning and losing. So I encourage you, if you have an I-601A waiver case or an I-601 case, start with a family tree. Start with a person's first approach. There's a lot of hardships that can be brought in through the back door to the qualifying relatives. You don't want to miss them because they may well be the difference between showing an ordinary hardship and an extreme hardship to the qualifying relative. And that difference is the difference between winning and losing. And in this hypothetical case, it would be the difference between Harry and Wilma being able to continue living together happily ever after here in the United States. Take care and good luck. Thanks for watching. Know someone who might be interested in this video? Then please take a moment to like and share it with them. Also, if you would like more videos on immigration, just click on the subscribe button. And here's a little bonus, a short guide that you can download for free by clicking on the link on the description box or the square-shaped image. Plus, if you have ideas for videos you'd like to see, write a short comment below or feel free to contact me at carlos@VitaraImmigrationLaw.com. My name is Carlos Vitara. I appreciate your time and hopefully we'll be talking again very, very soon.